Welcome to the Human Capital Innovations Podcast. We're your source for personal, professional, and organizational growth and development, where we share original research, explore industry trends, and interview executives and thought leaders from across the globe. We hope you join us often for practitioner-oriented content around all things related to leadership, HR, talent management, organizational development, and change management. Maximize your personal and organizational potential with Human Capital Innovations Podcast. If you enjoy the Human Capital Innovations Podcast, enjoy ad-free listening by going to the Patreon page, and please consider contributing even at the producer or sponsorship level. And please leave a review. Thank you for your support. Welcome to the Human Capital Innovations Podcast. In this HCI Podcast episode, I talk with Guillaume Wiatr about considerations for the future of business, society, and the planet. Guillaume Wiatr, welcome to the Human Capital Innovations Podcast.
John, it's a pleasure to be here with you today.
It's a pleasure to be with you. You're joining us from the Seattle area. I'm south of Salt Lake City in Utah. And today we're going to be talking about really a big, fun topic, considerations for the future of business, society, and the planet. We're not going to try to tackle too much here in 25 minutes, right? Just the future of business, society, and the planet. No, but really, I think it's going to be a fun conversation. Some big ideas, some big topics we're going to be exploring. But we also want to bring it down to the lived experience, the day-to-day, and how we can be better in our organizations for our teams as leaders, as we consider all these big macro level meta kind of issues that we're going to be exploring together. As we get started, I wanted to share Guillaume's bio with everybody. Guillaume Wiatr is the author of Strategic Narrative, a simple method that business leaders can use to help everyone understand their businesses, get behind it, and believe in it. In his company, Meta Helm, he guides CEOs, founders, and business owners of transformative companies to align teams and accelerate innovation adoption. A wonderful, wonderful background that you have. I appreciate you taking the time to share your expertise and your experiences with me and my audience, and to talk a little bit about your book and to explore this really important topic. Anything else you would like to share with the audience by way of your background, personal context, before we dive on in further?
Yeah, I think what brings us together for this conversation, John, today is the innovation piece, I think, of your podcast. It's really a topic that I've been fortunately exposed to since I was a kid. I come from a family of entrepreneurs, and innovation was always top of mind, always in our conversation, and always something I've worked on with all my heart and soul. And I think that more than before, we need innovations that are meaningful to people, that are meaningful to communities and to the world. So the work that I do, I want people to understand, is really, really focused on future stuff. I work with inventors, big thinkers, people who want to eradicate diseases, really big, hairy goals. And so I want people to keep that in mind. I also work with commodity businesses too, but my background is more about that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And yeah, future stuff. I like how you put that. You're a futurist, innovation, and of course, we don't have a crystal ball. We don't know what's necessarily coming down the pipeline, but we have some signals and we know trends, and we can look and kind of project out. And, we never know exactly what the next disruption is going to be, but we can try to prepare the best we can by just keeping a futures thinking mindset around how we approach things. And so I think that's a fantastic background, and innovation is keenly, important right now as we move into the future of work. Let's start by just briefly talking a little bit about your book, Strategic Narrative. Give us a little bit of a background to that. Why this book? Why now? Why you decided to write this? And then we can start to get into, these considerations for the future of business, society, and the planet.
Well, this book is, first of all, it's a short book, and before I started putting pen to paper, I thought, what kind of book would I need to read? What book would I enjoy reading? And I thought, so I'm going to talk about the format first. It's pretty tactical here. I thought, let's write a kid's book. I read countless amount of management books every year, and they're very long, and you have to really be motivated to read them sometimes. But I wanted to write something that people can actually read in 13 minutes. I read it on YouTube for people in 13 minutes. And one of the myths that I wanted to discuss is the difference between stories and narrative. I think in our business community, we're now used to word both terms kind of interchangeably. I'm sure you'll recognize that you have probably said at some point, hey, I want to tell my story. We have to have our story straight. Our narrative needs to be clearer. There's actually a difference between those two concepts. And that's what my book is about narratives as system of stories, as systems that bring in people in a more emotional way. We talk about the narrative, about society, about the economy, about justice, already in a pretty advanced way. I think that people who work in the social justice, social change field will have learned to really understand what the difference is, to build better strategies to advance their agendas. And I think the business community is a little behind on this curve. We think and we see stories, for the most part, I'm gonna probably overgeneralize here, but we think of stories as discrete entities, cool stuff we want to put on social media to hook more people into buying our products. Yes, that's one of the applications, but the use of storytelling can be much greater than that if you use it as something that will really mobilize people. One of the things I noticed in my career is that, people would buy stories. I worked in marketing positions, and they would gladly pay for a story. But when you connect them with a narrative that is greater than just your organization, say, they will almost die for your cause, right? And that's the type of energy, that's the type of movement we need as we have to tackle big challenges, big adaptive changes, around us here in society, in the environment, in the way we treat each other. There are so many answers we don't have. And we can't be in that marketing, salesy kind of mode of storytelling for business that will sell more stuff anymore. We have to move on. And we have to understand that the way we create businesses now has really to do with the larger narrative that we fuel as a society. So I'll pause here.
Yeah.
But
well, I really like that. I like how
about.
I like how you are focusing on narrative around, if I'm remembering correctly, you termed it a system of stories.
Right.
And so rather than one-off individual little stories that we're trying to tell, you're weaving together this tapestry of stories into this systematic narrative to promote an overall, vision, mission, purpose, some sort of a change in the organization and society as a whole. I really, really like that. I think generally speaking, we need to learn how to think more in terms of systems than in terms of these one-off, short-term, kind of immediate kind of activities. We often perform in terms of discrete activities, and we don't integrate them into larger, long-term sustainable strategies, right?
Yeah, that's right. And that's what you're describing here, John, is very relevant to people who innovate. Most people think that innovation is coming up with a great idea, a new concept, great product, and that's basically it. Add a layer of marketing on top of it, and it's going to work, right? I think it's a lot more complex than this. There's an important nuance here. Innovation to me is invention plus adoption. And what most people miss is the adoption piece, right? And what I started seeing many years ago is the difficulty we were running up against to really trigger adoption. So the book that I put together this year is really written for the people who know that they have something amazing, that they know that they have something incredible to offer to their market, but just don't understand why is it that the market is not going to adopt it faster, right? if let's take an example here. Let's say I came up with a new brilliant source of renewable energy. Why is it that it's going to take years and years for people to adopt it? So it's because we run up against underlying narratives that take time to understand, to change, to re-listen to, and to really integrate in the way we even design new products and new services. So this is really about this problematic here of adoption and alignment of causes and people. And so I publish on a frequent basis, 2 to 3 times a week on my newsletter. And last night I wrote a short piece about the fact that it's like sailing. When you sail, if you race with a boat, you can have the best boat, the best team, but really what will probably make you win is your understanding of the underlying conditions, the current. I'm a sailor, and I used to sail here in the Seattle area. And in the Seattle area on the Puget Sound, if you don't know the current, you can have the best boat. You're never going to win. And so in innovation, the game is very similar. You have to understand that if you're really putting something that is disruptive, you are playing on an uneven playing field. Picture a rugby field or a tennis field that is tilted, and you're at the bottom. You're on the lower end of that field, and you have to play against somebody who has very for who it is very, very easy to play, right? And so you have to understand how you can shift that balance in changing the narrative that the other player has in their mind. That's really what this approach is about. So the following question is, how do we do this? Because these are the grand concepts, the philosophy, but how do we do this? And I laid out, I'm proposing a framework with 4 different pieces that go beyond just simple marketing. It actually integrates leadership as well. I feel like really to change narrative, you have to have visionary leadership as a practice in place.
Yeah. Let's dig into that. What are those 4 core elements that help us to bring this kind of from these abstract philosophies and ideas down into the day-to-day practical application?
So the first thing to consider is what I call visionary leadership. It's really your ability to not only shape a vision, but also nourish it and live through it. Great leaders that build narrative power start with a vision that they can shape, that they can really fuel over and over. And that takes a lot of personal strength, because if you're really about something that is innovative, you will probably feel a little bit like an anomaly. You will hear pushbacks. It's going to be hard to get people on your side. And that's where the best marketing can do a lot, but can't replace your guts and can't replace your courage and can't replace the human element of innovation. I'm sure that will ring a bell with you, John. But that's the first area here.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Absolutely agree. And so if I'm a listener and I'm not really familiar with the innovation space, and I'm thinking, okay, how do I actually put that into practice today? Any ideas or tips on how I could start to do that right now?
Vision comes from the inside. You have to start journaling and documenting your journey. Most inventors, once they've released their first minimally viable product, forgot about why they even started with this in the first place, or they have a way to say it that is not very compelling, that is a little bit fuzzy, because they're so focused on the future that they don't have a chance to look at the past. So document your journey. Where does this vision come from? What are the defining moments that you went through, and why did it matter to you? Therefore, why does it matter to people? You can have the greatest vision that makes you excited, but if it doesn't make anyone else excited, then it's worthless. So it's really a work of introspection, of journaling, of really exploring your interior world. I'll leave it at that for now.
Yeah. And that's something we talk about a lot on this podcast for a lot of different topics, introspection, journaling, critical self-analysis. Like that is hugely important to just personal growth, leadership development, our capacity to better understand ourselves and others around us so we can have more influence and so that we can empower those around us on our teams, etc. But it definitely applies to innovation. Let's document the process. Let's
Absolutely.
journal. Let's go through that introspective process and to build a habit of it. And the great innovators, like you said, people who are able to, have a good idea, but also, go towards implementation and adoption of that idea. Those great innovators, those are ones that are continually pushing themselves, challenging themselves, and having some sort of mechanism to go through that introspective process.
I love the word mechanism. I see visionary leadership not as a trait, not as an attribute of someone, but as a process and a practice. Therefore, you can learn it, you can apply it, and you can get better at it.
Yeah, awesome. All right. Second 2 through 4.
2 through 4 is meaningful marketing. And people tell me, well, I'm not a marketer. What do you mean marketing? Like what is that? They look at me like, yes, you are a marketer. Depending on which definition you have of marketing. To me, marketing is the art of helping your business find its calling. So again, there is the idea of a process here, of a journey. What is marketing? It's bringing an idea to a market, a group of people, whether it's a community, an industry, and so on, and really tying to where is it that these people are ready to go? Where do you want to take them? And that's way beyond your company. I see so many entrepreneurs focus on marketing as this really narrow-minded activity of just pushing stuff about their product and services all the time. That's not marketing. That's spam. Marketing is really about aligning the purpose of your company with the purpose of your market. So first of all, you have to take the time to understand what is it that the market is interested in doing, right? What is it that the market is ready to accept? So narrative powers will develop when your company's purpose is also aligned to your market's purpose. So very practically speaking, what does it look like? If you don't spend a little bit of time every day, personally, even if you're the CEO of a large corporation, even if you think, I got people doing this for me. No, you need to do it yourself. You need to be at least leading the process to really understand what the market is about and where is it that you want to have impact. I see more and more also one other characteristic of this practice is the transparency piece. In the future, we're going to have to be way more transparent about the product that we put together, the way we develop them. And the latest example of that, it was this week, I think earlier this week, the French ski manufacturer, Reskill, it's pretty well-known brand here in the US, came up this year with the very first recyclable skis. So first of all, I learned that skis were not recyclable before, but they came up with a brilliant idea to make a recyclable ski. And now they're saying, well, we just released the composition of that ski. We're giving you all the specs for free. It's not patented. And please, competitors, feel free to copy us because we want society, we want everyone to focus on building a circular economy. So that is leadership right there in marketing. So that is meaningful. That's my definition of meaningful marketing right there with an example. So do that. Tesla did it.
I love that. And, people are thinking, well, why in the world would you give up your competitive advantage by sharing that information? And I think it's just a reframing of what matters most, right?
It is actually your competitive advantage to give up your competitive advantage. It still is. I think in the future it will become more of the norm.
Yeah, and it's a mindset shift towards more of an ongoing, long-term, sustainable approach to your competitive advantage and your organization's success, rather than the short-term, quarterly earnings report and et cetera, et cetera.
And transaction, yeah. So very practically, ask yourself this question as you're listening to this podcast. What are you willing to give up if you're so serious about the impact and the purpose you say you're having?
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah,
I mean,
excellent.
one of the many questions I could talk all day long about this. But that's one of the key ones. Third one is, it's really going back to the internal side of the organization. Is like, how do you team purposefully? So my third dimension here is called purposeful teaming. And the best team typically rally around very core and strong values. So if you have not developed the perspective that you defend, that you've really taken the time to craft, the point of view that will rally your team, you're really behind. Purposeful teaming starts by really infusing that idea of, let's build a team as a movement. Like, if people really understand what is it that we're doing here beyond just transactional day-to-day, cramming our schedules with meaningless meaning kind of stuff, you've got much more narrative power. What's going to happen is that you're going to have people really banging at your door to work with you. And one of the questions I ask when I work with some of the entrepreneurs I work with is, do you have a pipeline of diehard fans that send you their resume, even though they don't seem qualified, but they really, really want to work with you because they feel like their values are so aligned? And yeah, it's like, oh, that's a good question. Yeah, we have a few folks, but I say, well, we should really work on this. And the way we work on this is not by going out there and putting more advertisement for recruiting, is first of all by defining what is the experience in our team, like what are the values we defend and how do we walk the talk. Really, it's about that. So I'll give you an example. It's an old example, but something that really worked effectively. In 1959, Volvo was positioned on the market as a family / sports car. They were pretty undifferentiated. And the president lost a relative in a car accident and decided that his responsibility was to put on the market safer cars. So he reshaped. So first of all, he recruited an expert in Hans Bolling. He was working at Saab at the time, manufacturing safety mechanisms for aircraft. And he recruited or poached him. I don't know the details, and then reshaped the entire team around core values on engineering. And they are diehard engineers, ready to weather the pushbacks of the market and the time that it takes to adopt the 3-point seatbelt invention, and really, really build a very strong team of engineers. And today, I mean, the lasting effect of the decisions are still here. 60 years later, Volvo is still known for this reputation of safety. So these are some of the examples. So start today. What is the purpose that you're instilling in your team? And if you feel like some people don't align with that purpose, well, you've got to make maybe, they've got to move on, or you have to move on, but you have to make some tough decisions here.
Yeah. Excellent. All right. So I think always we want to have some alignment, some congruency within our teams. There's a whole lot of positive benefits to having, that alignment, to having that shared culture, to focusing on employee experience and the experience of team members within the team, so that you can attract and retain great people. But it leads to better innovation. It leads to better solutions to the most challenging problems that we face. And so again, if we're going to try to tackle the biggest messy issues in business, society, in the world today, then we need to have teams that are up to the task. And that means we have to have good people who are jointly pursuing the same common goal. They have values alignment, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, exactly. Well said, well reframed. I mean, in my intro, you asked me to talk about the context and the background of my book. Really, I forgot to mention something, which is, this is really for companies who have a transformative agenda. And transformation is tough. If you are seeking transformation in your market, in your industry, in your community, or even at the individual level with your customer or a consumer, however you want to call them, you have to have the right team behind it. So many companies say, yeah, we are going to transform this, but they don't have the right people behind. They don't have the right mindset behind. So that's really what this third out of 4 dimension is about. So
good. Yeah, let's go to number 4.
Number 4 is like, okay, all of that. So I'll mimic a conversation that I have sometime with people. They go, "Hey, Guillaume, very good. I love it. Yes, inspiring. But hey, we sell products here." I'm like, yes, that's my 4th one. Authentic selling. Authentic selling is the key here. If you've done the 3 first step right, you should now be at a point where you've realigned who you are as a leader, your connection with the market and your team. So you should be in a position to lie less about your product. So many lies, so much pressure, fear of missing out. All of these are outdated concepts. What people want is authenticity. They want the truth. They don't, and they've got so much technology now to find out about the truth even before you realize that you were lying. So stop that game. Be in the mode of authentically selling what people want, what people buy. And that's easy to do once you've explained to them why the innovation that you have is useful to them, why it's meaningful, why is it that they need it today. Right? So authentic selling is about the pursuit of less effort in your sales effort, right? Less marketing, less sales budget. Here's a question I have for you here on this podcast. Would your product be really missed if you stop selling it? How reliant are you on big sales and marketing budgets to actually have your company operate? So what if you didn't have a marketing or sales budget anymore? Would you go bankrupt? Okay, maybe in some context where regulations are such that you can't do anything else, fine. But so many areas, so many new markets are just free right now, and so you have to ask yourself, like, is our product so good, so well positioned, so true, so honest and transparent that it kind of sells itself? That's the key question here. That's one of the principles I defend. So what do you do now? Let's get into the how do we do that? Well, you have to work on your product story, and the product story is not the product, the story that you make up as a sales or marketing person. I mean, you can do that in your closet all day long. That's great. You're going to be very excited about it and think it's going to work and so on. No, it's the story that people have in their head. That's what you need to go listen to. That's what you need to go figure out by having more conversations with them and by really aligning with how are they going to use it. I'm always so struck by when you do that kind of stuff, when you do authentic selling, is how much we discover about how people actually use some products and services, how they actually how do they reframe the usage, the value of some of the products and services that we put out there in the market. So if you don't know what you're running up against, look at this area, right? How do you sell your products today? How much effort do you have to put into this?
Yeah.
Does this
wonderful.
make sense, John?
It makes perfect sense. And this has just been a really great, quick and dirty crash course into this. We could go on and on and on. I also note the time, and I'm going to have to let you go here in just a minute. Yes. So I really appreciate you laying this out for us. And of course, you have a great book that can help people as they want to further pursue this. And before we wrap things up for today, I just wanted to give you a chance to share with the audience to let them know how they can connect with you, find out more about your work, if they want to continue the conversation, and then give us a final word on the topic for today.
Yeah. So very practically, go to my website. My website is metahelm.com, METAHELM. There's one thing you can do there that will take 5 minutes. I have an assessment that will tell you today if you're building narrative power for your company. There are 12 easy to understand, not so easy to answer sometimes questions there. And so take that assessment. So you'll get your results immediately, and then it follows with some resources to know what to do. So that's for the the call to action here is really to go to that website, metahelm.com, and do the assessment. And it comes with the book for free as well. One of the final words I want to leave people with is that is really probably around scarcity mindset. Everything I told you about only works if you embrace abundance as a mindset. look ahead, look forward. There's so many possibilities. I know we hear scary stuff happening on the planet today, but there is also so many great news, so many great inventions, innovations. So go look after these and rally the movements that are building around these ideas. That's what I'll say.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure. I encourage my audience to reach out, get connected, find out more about what you can do for them. And as always, I hope everyone can stay healthy and safe, that you can find meaning and purpose at work each and every day. And I hope you all have a great week. Do you enjoy the Human Capital Innovations podcast? Enjoy ad-free listening by going to the Patreon page. And please consider contributing even at the producer or sponsorship level. And please leave a review. Thank you for your support. Thanks again for joining us for this episode of the Human Capital Innovations Podcast. I hope you stay healthy and safe and that you have a great week.